Good morning, Wright State University, and welcome to the Wright Morning Show on WWSU. Start your day the right way with us. We will be covering current events in the news, local, national, and from Wright State. We will provide a daily dose of inspiration and positivity to lighten your day. And we will have a special feature depending on the day of the week. So grab your tea or your coffee, sit back, relax, and enjoy the Wright Morning Show. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Wright Morning Show for Friday, October 29th, 2021. TGIF, am I right? So, I am Triple P, and I am your host for today's show, and we are going to go ahead and get right into your current events for today. First off, we're going to be starting with local news, and then we're going to be doing global and national news after that. So first off, let's talk about stuff happening around the Fairborn and Dayton area. From WHIO, city says that contingency plans are in place as unions warn of a public safety nightmare amid vaccine policy. So, the unions representing Dayton's police officers and firefighters said the city is facing a potential public safety nightmare when the city's vaccination policy goes into effect on Monday. However, the city says it is prepared. Union leaders said firefighters and police officers will show up on the Monday deadline, but many may be unwilling to disclose their vaccination status and could be sent home from work. Dayton city leaders in August announced that employees with the city will be required to be fully vaccinated or be subject to weekly COVID-19 testing. The deadline was moved back twice, and now the deadline is November 1st. We have never not been able to accommodate the city, whether it's been financial, personal, whatever. We have bent over backwards and will continue to bend over backwards. You know why? Because we care about the citizens of Dayton. We care about public safety, said Craig Robinson, President IAFF Local 136. Dayton FOP President Jerry Dix said if the city manager and human resources director were concerned, they would have spoken with the unions during the process of planning a policy and not after it had been developed. He said they spoke with the unions, but that's not true. They spoke at us, Dix said in August. Dayton City Manager Shelley Dickstein said she was extremely disappointed with the comments made this morning by union leaders representing our safety forces. While the testing start date has changed due to test availability and to allow more employees the opportunity to get vaccinated, the new testing protocol was discussed months ago with all union leadership, Dickstein said. The city said both the fire and police departments have put together contingency plans for staffing and will use all means at their disposal to ensure public safety for our residents if large numbers of employees are not on the job as scheduled. Dickstein said the city held a series of meetings in August to discuss details of the planned testing mandate. You can read more about this at WHIO. Dayton Daily News has an article about CareSource drawing new firms through a deal and therefore creating 100 new jobs. So be sure to check that out. Springfield News Song has an article, Dayton communities hosting trick-or-treating tonight. Some may make changes due to the rainy weather. So be sure to check your local community guides for Beggars Night plans. Dayton Daily News has discussions about the finalists for the best breakfast. We talked about that yesterday. WDTN, we've talked about the Mini Kiss Museum yesterday as well. From WHIO, Dayton Food Bank holds final planned mass food distribution. The Dayton Food Bank continues to see the need for food assistance in the community. On Thursday, the the food bank hosted the last of its planned mass distribution events at Dixie Twin Drive-In. Organizers were expecting more than 1,000 people to show up as the need had gone up just ahead of the holidays. There was no shortage of people in need of a helping hand. Sindra Ball said, "We're having a little bit of a tough time. I got Social Security, and it didn't last very long, sweetheart," said Sally Baylor, who is a food recipient. As the temperature goes down, the hardships go up. You can read more at WHIO.com. Dayton Daily News discusses 2 new restaurants that open in October. More restaurants are opening soon, so be sure to check that out. WDTN, Wright Patterson Air Force Base is holding public blood drive to help wounded warriors and military personnel. The American Red Cross said in a press release earlier this week that since the start of the coronavirus pandemic, the national blood supply is critically low, saying, in fact, the current blood supply is the lowest that the Red Cross has seen this time of year in more than a decade. The shortage, however, is affecting more than just civilians. To help make up for the low blood supply, Wright-Patterson Air Force Base is holding a blood drive at the National Museum of the United States Air Force and will be available for public participation. "We're always trying to increase blood supply," said Master Sergeant Nathan Butcher. "Especially since the pandemic, people aren't going out as much and donating. They're staying home more often. So it has been a struggle trying to get donors and to donate." To help replenish the dwindling supply, military personnel is asking community members to give their blood, especially type O, to those who devote their lives to fighting for the country. But Butcher said it's especially important for community members to donate at Friday's drive because they are one of the only 3 Air Force donor centers in the country that can collect and distribute blood products for which there is no substitute. Any blood products collected through the Armed Services Blood Program get sent downrange to help the war fighters, said Butcher. It also gets sent throughout the United States to our medical treatment facilities for our veterans and their families. Staff at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base gives non-military personnel 5 opportunities to donate blood at off-base drives each year. Friday's donation event will be held at the National Museum of the United States Air Force from 9:30 a.m., so that's just in 20 minutes, up until 2:30 p.m. today. Butcher said community members can sign up to donate upon arrival or can register at militarydonor.com. From Dayton Local, here's some events happening in Dayton, Ohio. There's the Fall Storytime at Eaton Branch on Thursday, November 4th at 10 a.m. Register for Fall Storytimes with the Eaton Branch. Also Thursday, November 4th. Wait, are these all November 4th? Huh. I'm going to try and find weekend events if I can pull it up here real quick. I would rather cover that. Here we go. All right. Weekend events happening around Dayton. Today, we got the Family Pumpkin Paint Party, which started at 6:30 this morning. Come enjoy a night out with the family and paint a pumpkin. Dress in your best costume. Come paint pumpkins, complimentary hot chocolate and cookies, and mini bags of candy. At 10 a.m., the Fall Fest at Potluck Greenhouse. Loads of fall activities, including 5-acre corn maze with a scavenger hunt. Niederman Family Farm Fall Festival at 10 a.m. Fall activities include a 14-acre corn maze and pumpkin patch, September and October in Liberty Township. 10 a.m. Sizemore Farm Fall Family Fun. 10 a.m. Vintage Market Days in Dayton, Cincinnati. An upscale vintage market with 100 vendors, live music, and food trucks. 20-foot wide aisles to accommodate social distancing. Also 10 a.m. Zoom Around the Room, ages 1 to 5 years. A variety of play equipment will be set up in the gymnasium for children and their guardian to run, climb, jump, and recreate. Footloose at 10:30 a.m. La Comida Dinner Theater. Covin's Corny Corn Maze at Young's Dairy at 11 a.m. Calvin, the baby of the Cal family, has created a fun maze at Young's Jersey Dairy. Come see if you can conquer it. Formless Form the Fifth, the calligraphy of Ronald Y. Nakasone. The DAI Focus exhibition presents newly created works by Donald Y. Nakasone and explores key aspects of the art of calligraphy or show. That's at 11 a.m. There's a whole bunch of events, honestly, and I don't have time to get through them all because there's so many of them. There's 4 pages just for today, and there's a whole bunch more for the weekend. So be sure to check out everything that is happening in the community at DaytonLocal.com. Dayton Daily News has an article, 3 suffer minor injuries, including 2 officers in a Heber Heights police chase. Dayton Business Journal has an article about Dr. Andre Harris mentoring the next generation of minority physicians. From WDTN, Life Milestones and Finances. There is a segment, Emily chats with Eric Gagliano from River Valley Credit Union and shares helpful financial information pertaining to different life events. So be sure to check that out and learn some skills on how to manage your finances. From WYSO, Ohio Democratic Party issues apology for ads targeting Dayton Commissioner candidates. The Montgomery County Democratic Party released 2 attack ads against Shanice Turner-Sloss and Darrell Fairchild, candidates in the Dayton City Commissioner race. The postcards target Shanice Turner-Sloss and Darrell Fairchild. They're both Democrats but aren't officially endorsed. One of the ads is dark red and reads in bold letters, "Don't trust Shanice Turner-Sloss." It shows a tweet from a local Democratic Socialist chapter endorsing Turner-Sloss. The other ad features a graphic with a bullet hole and says Turner-Sloss and Fairchild oppose measures to keep Dayton residents safe from violent crime. At the bottom of the ad is a link to the Dayton Daily News article. The article describes Commissioner Fairchild's vote against renewing the city's contract with California tech company ShotSpotter. ShotSpotter is a gunshot detection technology that immediately alerts Dayton police to the location of a gunshot. These microphones are exclusively placed in West Dayton, a predominantly black community. That's kind of racist if you ask me. Fairchild said the grant money used to fund the technology should have gone towards neighborhood development. Many black community activists and leaders agree and have spoken out against ShotSpotter. They say the technology is ineffective at reducing gun crime and leads to over-policing of black neighborhoods. The Ohio Democratic Party said in a statement on Thursday, these ads violated several of their mailer policies. ODP Chair Elizabeth Walters has spoken with both candidates listed on the mail pieces in violation and offered her apologies for ODP's role in the mistake. You can read more at wyso.org. All right, we're going to go to your weather forecast now. The current weather brought to you by tomorrow.io at Wright State University is drizzle. It's a wet one out there, and it is 55 degrees. Rain is falling just under 0.01 inches per hour. The wind is blowing at about 3 miles per hour from the east. The humidity is 93%. The barometer is a low 29.47 inches of mercury because this is a big low pressure system that we got over the states right now. The visibility is 7.7 miles. The air quality is moderate. Your 12-hour forecast shows off and on drizzle up until 10 a.m. and then steady light rain from then on for the remainder of the 12-hour period. Temperatures are going to approach 57 degrees at 11 a.m., but they're not really going to get much warmer than that. It's going to start cooling off after about 4 p.m., but only a little bit. Temperatures are going to remain pretty steady. It may drop to the lower 50s overnight, according to tomorrow.io. Let's go to your extended weather forecast with the National Weather Service at Wright Patterson Air Force Base. Today's forecast, showers, high around 60. Tonight, showers are likely, low around 50. Saturday, a chance of showers, high in the upper 50s. Saturday night, the rain finally goes away and we are left with mostly cloudy skies and cooler conditions, low in the mid-40s. Sunday, partly sunny, high around 60. Sunday night, mostly cloudy, low in the upper 30s. Monday, mostly sunny, a little bit cooler, high in the mid-50s. Monday night, cloudy, low in the upper 30s. And then finally Tuesday, cloudy and even cooler, high around 50. Fall weather is definitely coming in because we are going to be in the low to mid 40s starting Wednesday of next week. So be sure to look out for that. Now, for your global and national news. First off, from the New York Times, don't confuse legislative sausage making with substantive impact. Ugly yet huge. The legislative process is rarely pretty. It highlights political divisions that could feel disconnected from people's lives. When a big bill is making its way through Congress, voters are often turned off. The central piece of President Biden's agenda has followed this pattern. It has caused squabbles among Democrats, and the plan has already shrunk nearly by half, disappointing progressives, amusing Republicans, and providing grist of critical media coverage. Eventually, though, the process behind a bill's passage tends to fade into history. What matters far more is the bill's substance. And if Congress passes anything resembling the legislative framework that Biden announced yesterday, it will be highly consequential. That was the main message I heard from policy experts yesterday when I asked them to assess the framework. Compared with Biden's original proposal, it looks paltry. Compared with the status quo, it looks like a big deal. It's not going to solve every problem, but it's going to change people's lives, Megan Curran of Columbia University's Center on Poverty and Social Policy told the New York Times. The bill would sharply cut child poverty, reduce child care and health care expenses by thousands of dollars per year for many families, enroll more children in pre through K, provide more people with health insurance, finance the building of 1 million affordable housing units, and slow climate change by reducing greenhouse gas emissions. Because they started big, there's a tendency to say, oh, it's disappointing. But it's huge, said Jane Wildfogel, a longtime scholar of children and families. If you had told us a year ago that there was going to be a bill this fall that would have an extension of the child tax credit, big funding for child care, pre-K, healthcare, etc., I would have said, in your dreams. There are a few caveats, though. One, major provisions did fall out of the bill, including paid leave, drug price reductions, and several tax increases on the wealthy. No one got everything they wanted, including me, said Biden, before leaving on a trip to Rome. The political impact may be modest, especially in the short term. Democrats remain underdogs to keep congressional control next year. And third, a framework is not the same as a law, as colleague Carl Holst notes. Some members of Congress are still trying to make changes, and Democrats will have to remain almost completely unified to pass a bill. You can read more about this and Biden's proposal currently on the table by going to the morning edition of the New York Times. Now some more headlines from the New York Times. As Delta surged, the vaccines largely worked, according to some charts. As of September 4th, unvaccinated people had experienced 12 times more deaths due to COVID than fully vaccinated people. Thousands of New York City municipal workers, including police officers and firefighters, are facing unpaid leave if they do not get a vaccine shot by Monday. And this is happening here in Dayton as well. China is still chasing full eradication of the virus, and experts are skeptical. The Albany County Sheriff charged Andrew Cuomo with forcible touching, which is a misdemeanor sex crime. For the first time in public, a detainee described his torture at CIA black sites, including forced feedings, waterboarding, and sexual abuse. Oklahoma executed a death row inmate. Like other executions in the state, this one, the first in 6 years, did not go smoothly. Ooh. I don't know. It's a New York Times article, so you have to subscribe to the New York Times to find out. Voters in Minneapolis will decide whether to replace the city's police department with a Department of Public Safety. Michelle Wu, a 36-year-old protege of Elizabeth Warren, is favored to become the next mayor of Boston. Facebook changed its corporate name to Meta. It's a reference to the metaverse, a more immersive online world that may be Mark Zuckerberg's escape hatch, Kevin Roos writes. We've been talking about how Facebook has been under hot water so much lately. And I had mentioned here, upon hearing the first news that Facebook's changing their name, I said, this is just a way for them to get out of the bad reputation. They're trying to, instead of fixing the problem, they're running away from it.
Yeah.
Shame on you, Mark Zuckerberg. Shame on you.
Shame.
Shame.
Ding, ding, ding. Shame.
China is mining more coal to stave off an electric shortage. It's taking a toll on the climate. The NFL paid its commissioner, Roger Goodell, $128 million over 2 years. Goodell is facing criticism over his handling of an investigation into workplace harassment. And now, Cheddar News. From Cheddar News, Facebook shall now be known as Meta. Mark Zuckerberg unveiled the rumored corporate rebrand during a presentation focusing on the company's bet into the metaverse, a blending of the digital and physical worlds that he sees for the future. Instagram, WhatsApp, and Facebook, the platform, will keep their names and brands, but under the Meta umbrella. Executives, including Zuckerberg, have denied that the rebranding is an attempt to distance the company from its various reputational problems.
Yeah, right.
From Politico, President Biden landed in Rome overnight for a series of global summits with his economic agenda hanging in the balance back in Washington. Before he left, the president unveiled a new $1.8 trillion framework for his social spending bill in the hopes that it would satisfy the party's centrist holdouts. The biggest chunk of that bill is $550 billion for climate change programs, which Democrats had hoped would be signed into law by the time Biden arrives in Glasgow for the climate summit, COP26. From the New York Times, a big test for strict vaccine mandates starts today in New York City. After a state judge refused to block a police union's request to pass the city's mandate, the entire municipal workforce, the biggest in the country, must have had at least one shot or they'll be placed on unpaid leave starting Monday. The latest statistics from the city show a quarter of New York police departments and emergency medical personnel and a full third of FDNY and sanitation workers have not shown proof of vaccination, leading to worries that there could be a significant shortage of essential workers. From NBC New York, former New York Governor Andrew Cuomo has been charged with a misdemeanor sex crime for allegedly groping a female aide at the executive mansion in Albany last year. The criminal complaint stemmed from one of the women whose accusations of sexual harassment led to Cuomo's resignation this summer. The former governor's lawyer denied the charge and accused the local sheriff of carrying out a political hit job. The charge has a penalty of up to 1 year in jail, and Cuomo will have to appear in court for an arraignment, on November 17th. Honestly, they should make him register as a sex offender as well, if you ask me.
Yeah, true.
From CNN, the U.S. economy grew at a sluggish 2% over the summer for the weakest rate of growth since the recovery started. Third quarter GDP was expected to be disappointing given the resurgence of COVID combined with the supply chain bottlenecks that zapped consumer spending. Many economists expect economic growth to pick up this quarter, but the supply chain remains the biggest question mark ahead of the holidays. From NPR, Starbucks and Costco are the latest chains to introduce a new minimum wage in a bid to hire and retain workers in a historically tight labor market. Costco raised its minimum wage to $17 an hour, still not enough. And Starbucks has put in a floor of $15 an hour, still not enough, for its employees. Costco's pay raise comes just 8 months after it hiked starting wages to $16, while Starbucks' hike will kick in next summer when baristas will earn up to $23 an hour. See, I say not enough because, as I've mentioned before on this show, according to research, you need at least $20 an hour in the state of Ohio to be able to afford a standard 2-bedroom studio apartment. From the Chicago Tribune, the head coach of the Florida Panthers has resigned in the fallout of a sexual abuse scandal that has rocked the National Hockey League. Joel Quenneville was the coach of the Chicago Blackhawks during the team's 2010 Stanley Cup run, when Hawks prospect Kyle Beach claims he was sexually assaulted by the team's video coach, Brad Aldrich. Beach came forward this week, revealing himself as the John Doe in that case. A league investigation found that Quenneville was aware of the incident at the time, even though he claimed as recently as Wednesday he didn't learn about it until recently. From People, Gigi Hadid and Zayn Malik have reportedly split up amid an alleged dispute between Malik and Hadid's mother, Yolanda. TMZ, citing unnamed sources, is reporting that Yolanda Hadid claimed that Malik struck her and that she was seriously considering going to the police. Malik issued a short statement vehemently denying the accusation. According to People, the singer and supermodel have decided to go their separate ways and will continue to co-parent their baby, Kai. All right, we are going to end the current events segment there and take a short break. While we come back, we're going to get into your daily dose of inspiration. Today's topic, embracing the gift of being alive with Rhonda McGee. So this comes from mindful.org. Stick around. We'll be back in just a couple of minutes. You're listening to The Right Morning Show on WWSU.
Hey, we're the
Welcome back to the Right Morning Show on WWSU 106.9 FM. Now that I got a moment to breathe, let's introduce Laughing Chipmunk alive in the studio. How are you doing, Laughing Chipmunk?
I'm alive. I'm actually here.
Yeah, from live from West. Well, she came up from West Virginia, so
Yeah.
she's in town for a few days during the Halloween season.
Yep.
All right, shall we get into our inspiration topic? Let's talk about embracing the gift of being alive with Rhonda McGee. So, Rhonda McGee sits down with Mindful's managing editor, Stephanie Domet, to talk about her work, how she navigates the difficult emotions, and how love can carry us through. Hang on a moment. This is an interview, by the way, so this is written in interview format. Stephanie Domet says, "Hello and welcome to Real Mindful. This is where we speak mindfully about things that matter. We'll meet here twice a month to introduce you to some of the teachers, thinkers, writers, and researchers who are engaged in the mindfulness movement. You hear all kinds of conversations about the science of mindfulness, the practice of mindfulness, and the heart of it. I'm Stephanie Domet. I'm the managing editor at Mindful Magazine and mindful.org, and this is Real Mindful. Rhonda V. McGee is a professor of law at the University of San Francisco, also trained in sociology and mindfulness based stress reduction. She is a highly practiced facilitator of trauma sensitive restorative MBSR interventions for lawyers and law students and for minimizing the effects of social identity based bias. McGee has been visiting scholars at the Center for the Study of Law and Society and a visiting professor of law at the University of California, Berkeley. Her book, The Inner Work of Racial Justice, had just been released in paperback by Penguin Random House. The Inner Work of Racial Justice is a rewarding, vital, and timely journey into using contemplative practices to peer into and beyond our biases. The book was first released in the fall of 2019, and soon after, we ran an excerpt from The Inner Work of Racial Justice, in which Rhonda writes about her working through a difficult conversation with a student. Here's a bit of that excerpt. Talking about race isn't easy for everyone, and teaching about race can be a minefield. One of my own most difficult moments teaching about race happened when I encountered intentionally provocative behavior from one of my students, Dan, an Asian American cisgendered man. Dan was in his last semester of law school, and this was his third course with me. It was a course on contemporary issues of race and law. A major component of the course was a research paper, and the students each took turns discussing their thoughts on their projects. When we came to Dan, he said, "I want to do a paper on the Rodney King beating." His likely thesis, he announced, was that the beating King received at the hands of police was deserved. Even as I write this now, I could feel a blip of reactivity. I could see the policeman in the grainy video that we've all seen appearing to let loose with as much force as they could muster on Mr. King, raining strikes with their batons on the head and torso of a man already on the ground beneath them. And I could feel the empathetic pain, sadness, and anger coming from me as a result. So when Dan made this announcement to our small seminar-style class sitting around an oblong table, I could sense the tense silence that fell across the whole room. And I could feel my mouth go dry with fear and a bit of intimidation. I felt my temperature involuntarily rise, the blood seemingly rushing to my head. This is what anger feels like. I knew enough to admit to myself silently. And I certainly felt viscerally and immediately the sense of energy of judgmental thoughts arising in my own mind, such as "you are wrong" and indignation, "how dare you." This is what confusion, anger, and dismay all mixed up together felt like. And it was that deep concern and compassion for my other students, what they felt like. Several of them were black and brown and had felt that direct impact of nationwide patterns of overplacing of black men. Finally, on top of all of this, my own ego was on the line. I have been tasked with facilitating this conversation and guiding it productively, and this moment certainly wasn't feeling like success. So, as you read the rest of that excerpt, at mindful.org, Rhonda details how she worked through a series of conversations with Dan, uncovering what was motivating him and helping him work through some of his own trauma and arrive at some healing. It's a really powerful excerpt, but it left me with a lot of questions as a reader. So I connected with Rhonda McGee in late 2019 to ask her some of those questions. And here's the conversation. So, in your work, The Inner Work of Racial Justice, you detail the steps you took to help one of your students process his attitudes and biases. What kind of energy does that work require? Rhonda replies, it requires a certain kind of commitment, a certain willingness to turn toward that which we could so easily deflect, turn away from, deny, minimize, and avoid. For me, it's really important that when these opportunities present themselves for us to look into what's arising around this, we turn into that opportunity as opposed to away from it. I also think it takes a kind of grounding in a certain kind of love, kindness, or loving kindness. For me, it takes some feeling of the value of the possibility of connecting across lots of difference and the importance and value of trying to do it again and again, even when it's difficult. SD asks, why is it worth it to you to do this work? RM replies, in my view, absolutely everything is connected, and that means all of us are connected. And so it seems to me that when we have these opportunities to expand the sense of our common ground, and we don't take advantage of them, and we don't do what we can to heal and repair and transform the world, then it seems to be we are, in effect, contributing to barriers and obstacles to deep well being. And so for me, it's worth it because it's about practice. It arises out of deep practice for me. It arises out of the deep ethical ground of my practice. SD asks, who does the work serve? Is it for yourself, for the other person, the greater good of society, or to honor the practice? RM says it serves life, the gift of literally being alive. To me, that's not about any one of us. To be alive is a great gift, and therefore the only real response to such a gift is gratitude. And a way to show gratitude is to try and minimize harm wherever it arises as best we can, recognizing we're not perfect and we're not always able to see clearly how what we're doing contributes to harm. We're all vulnerable and misguided in our own ways. So it's with a lot of humility that I say this, but ultimately, I think this question of who does it benefit? It benefits life. SD asks, for a racialized person, a racialized woman, there are microaggressions everywhere. How do you take care of yourself to ensure you could do this work you want to do and feel called to do? RM replies, it has come out of a sense of my own agency, and that I often call personal justice. This idea that justice starts with us, how we treat ourselves. Taking care of myself feels like the first approximation of whatever it is I'm trying to offer in the world. There's a reason I live in San Francisco opposed to North Carolina or Virginia, where I was born and raised. The environment in San Francisco seems a bit more conducive to the way of accepting people, working across cultures, multiculturally, working with people who have different ways of expressing themselves, whether it be about race, sexual orientation, religion, immigration status, so on. I specifically talk about the environment first and then the practices. We tend to think that from the practices, we can overcome just about everything. And that's a good way to think, but I don't want to miss this opportunity to name the relevance of our embeddedness in the world. And what's possible is, in some measure, aided and abetted and shaped by the circumstances, the environments, the structures and systems that we find ourselves bathing in all the time. I live in a community that provides a certain amount of buffer against some of the worst kinds of disrespect that a person like me might find out in the world. From this place of relative protectedness, then I actually am able to give even more. We have to keep fighting for opportunities for people who today are suffering from a new set of oppressive systems. SD asks, I wonder what your take on call out culture or cancel culture is. Is there a value in that approach too? Your approach is one on one, which feels righteous but slow. But what about other big impact approaches? Do they also move the ball down the field? RM replies, in the social justice arenas, we may have overamplified some of the sharper ways of dealing with this. That's not to say there aren't times when we really need to take a strong, sharp stand. It takes a certain skill to act firmly and clearly, and do so in a way that can minimize rather than exacerbate patterns of disconnect and separation. For me, it's never about just changing places with the people or processes that have been causing harm. It's really about bringing around a new way of being with each other. There's a certain urgency to figuring out how to work for some notion of justice and how to end oppression. But how to do that in a way that opens the heart and that expands the capacity of all of us to be agents of a kind and public love that can help us sustain human life. Because the universe is going to go on in whatever way, but human life is vulnerable right now because of our failure to figure out how to live more gently and effectively together on this planet, and to appreciate this brief opportunity we have between the birth and the death date to make a positive impact on the world. If you want to read the rest and the full interview, if you want to listen to it as well, you could go to mindful.org. But for time's sake, we're going to have to stop there. What are your thoughts, Laughing Chipmunk?
It was interesting.
Oop, get closer to the mic,
Oh,
please.
sorry.
There
Hello.
we go.
No, it's interesting.
You fell back again.
Okay, my
There
mouth
we
is
go.
like right here on the. See?
All right. Yeah, these mics do not they filter out background noise pretty well. So if you move
Oh,
just like 5 inches away, you fade out pretty fast.
really?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well,
So you
anyway,
gotta get like just like 2 or 3 inches from the microphone.
like
You
this,
gotta
right?
practically eat it.
Ah!
Yeah,
Oh, I about ate my mask.
don't do that.
Okay,
Masks are not all that nutritious.
no.
They help protect you, but they don't give you nutrition. All right. We're going to go ahead and take our next break. And when we come back, it's Freaky Friday. So we got to cover some Florida man stories and see what else is in the news. You're listening to the Right Morning Show on WWSU 106.9 FM. Don't go anywhere. Those of you on YouTube, those were not real spiders on the screen. That was a Halloween effect.
Cool.
And now, another
Welcome back to the Right Morning Show on WWSU 106.9 FM. It is time for Freaky Friday, so you know what I got to do. I got to pull up a web browser and look at the latest Florida man stories.
Florida man.
Yeah, there's always something going on with Florida man in the news, so we're going to go ahead and I'm going to do a Google search here for Florida man stories here.
Okay.
Florida man arrested for leaving pizza trail of clues for deputies. Uh, a pizza eating suspect responsible for a pair of car break ins was caught after deputies followed a trail of evidence in Deltona. Dewey J. Smith, 38, was arrested on Wednesday after being caught walking down the street carrying victims' credit cards and IDs. Victims recorded the car break-ins around 7:30 a.m. on Jefferson Avenue. This was 7:30 a.m. Yesterday, actually. Deputies with the Volusia County Sheriff's Office responded to the scene and discovered one of the car's center console, was open and a glove box rummaged through. The victim's wallet was also missing. According to deputies, marinara sauce was on the inside handle of the driver's side door. Authorities also noticed an empty pizza box at the scene where there was another car break-in. A 9mm handgun and an old concealed weapons permit were missing. That's funny.
Jeez.
It just comes to show when you're breaking into cars, don't be eating pizza at the same time.
Yeah.
That's funny. Oh God, this one's depressing.
Oh, okay.
A Florida man left a 12-year-old son to die after misbehaving.
Jeez.
Palm Bay man has been arrested in connection to the death of his 12-year-old son. According to an arrest affidavit, Jason Godleski called Palm Bay police on October 22nd to report the death of his son, but did not say how he died. Florida man left 12-year-old son to die after misbehaving. Police officers, somebody did not edit this article. Officers instead of say officers.
Oh.
Police officers discovered the boy deceased inside the laundry room with evidence of trauma to his body. Officers said it appears the boy had been deceased for a lengthy period of time. Oof. That was from WFLA. Let's see. Oh, yeah, I like this one. This one's from the New York Post. This happened 4 days ago.
Okay.
A Beverly Hills, Florida man has been arrested for setting fire to 2 homes and a statue of Jesus, according to authorities.
Okay.
James Lee Harris, 25, set fire to a tree and a statue of Jesus Christ at Our Lady of Grace Catholic Church in Beverly Hills, a home on South Barber Street, and another vacant home on South Waldsworth Avenue. Not only is arson dangerous, but in some cases it can be deadly. Yeah, this is how Jesus died. Citrus County Sheriff Prendergast said in a Saturday statement, "No one in our community was injured during Harris's tirade of inconceivable acts. I applaud our deputies, community crime detectives, and partners at Citrus Family Fire Rescue for working swiftly and diligently to throw lemons at lemonade stands," because our name has the word citrus in it. No, I'm just kidding. To keep our community safe from further harm. You can read more at nypost.com. Oh, I like this headline. This ought to be good. This one's from Newsweek a week ago. I better mute this site before it starts playing an ad. All right. A Florida man has been arrested for pleasuring himself with an ice pack while first responders were on call to assist him with breathing issues.
The heck?
On October 14th, a 30-year-old Terry Majors of Pinellas County, Florida, was arrested and charged with exposure of sexual organs, which is a misdemeanor. He was released on October 15th on his own recognizance. Recognizance.
Oh, whatever.
According to an arrest report, Majors called 911 because he was experiencing shortness of breath. I wonder why. Once the EMT crew arrived, Majors removed his clothing and began masturbating with an ice pack in the presence of first responders, according to police.
Jeez.
First responders will like to prosecute, said Officer Hannah Duran in the arrest report. Recently, Majors was released from jail after serving a 1-year sentence on felony drug charges for selling crack cocaine to an undercover cop. He also served time in state prison for burglary.
That man has issues.
Yeah. Oh, after returning to his car, Wolf began twerking for the officers before attempting to flee and resist arrest. Eventually, Wolf was apprehended and charged with reckless driving, resisting an officer without violence, and failure to stop or fleeing a law enforcement officer after an ordered stop. Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, some people.
Let's see here. See if I can find anything.
Drinking my hot chocolate when you were starting to tell that story.
Yeah. Let's see here. See if I can find anything else that's funny. Florida stories. Florida man charged after accidentally shooting himself in Highland Park. A Florida man was arrested and charged for illegally carrying a gun after he accidentally shot himself with the gun. Jalen McKinney, 26, of the 0100 block of West Seminole Avenue in Lake Wales, Florida, was charged with one account of aggravated unlawful use of a firearm. That's interesting. Let me see if there's any Michigan man stories.
Florida man, Michigan man.
Yeah, there's like everything. Let's see here. Michigan man admits to flying to New York to meet an 11-year-old for sex. Michigan man drowns in lake after being thrown overboard from a boat. That's no good. Michigan man washed clothes and then tried to steal $84 in quarters from a laundromat.
Okay.
Michigan man accused of hiding crystal meth in a dictionary and cigarette pack.
Okay.
That's interesting.
I thought maybe you were going to say he was hiding it in a certain body cavity or something.
I've heard that too before.
Well,
All right,
yeah.
let's see if there's any Ohio man stories. Ohio man accused of dropping destructive devices onto boats. No wonder that. See, that's the reason why the Michigan man got thrown overboard.
Oh, okay.
That'd be funny.
He got killed by the Ohio man.
Ohio man builds a giant skeleton bursting through his house for Halloween.
Ooh, okay.
Ooh, that's interesting.
Does it have a picture?
Yeah, it does.
Oh, I'm going to come over and look at it.
It's a huge. Holy crap! That's a big skeleton. You can check it out at cbc.ca if you want to see the picture.
House.
Yeah, pretty much. It is.
Wow. That's pretty cool.
He's got a really, really scary, spooky setup at his house.
Nice.
That's pretty cool.
I like stuff like that.
According to Cleveland, man cannot sue his wife for tripping over her shoes and falling down basement steps, according to an Ohio court.
Huh? That sounds like something I'd do.
Oh my gosh. All right. Well, unfortunately, we are running out of time here. So we're going to go ahead and close off the morning show today. It went by too fast, if you ask me.
I wish it was 2 hours.
Yeah. So we're going to go ahead and close off. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in to the Right Morning Show today. We are on the air every Tuesday through Friday at 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. Here are some other shows that are happening on WWSU Radio today. We have coming up next the Democracy Now! Podcast with Amy Goodman and Juan Gonzalez from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. Get your latest current events and special guest interviews. From 12 p.m. to 1:15 p.m. is Spooky Scary Stories on WWSU Radio, so be sure to check that out. From 2 to 3 p.m., we have the the sports director who is doing his sports show, The Perspective. So get the perspective on the latest sports news from 2 to 3 p.m. From 4 to 5:30 p.m. today, we have the marketing director of WWSU, Anna, along with the business coordinator of the Guardian Media Group, Dylan, doing a show together called The Hotspot. They're going to have special guests on their show where they ask them some juicy and interesting questions. So be sure to check that out. And then we have from 5:45 to 8, women's volleyball. They're playing first place Milwaukee today. So it's a game that you don't want to miss today.
Go Raiders!
And finally, from 9 p.m. to whenever, is Kadeen with the Kadeen Vibe Show.
Yeah.
So be sure to get down and get grooving with the Kadeen Vibe Show.
Boogie with the boogeyman.
Thank you, Laffy Chummuck, for being on the show today.
Thank you for having me. I love being in the studio.
Yeah. And thank you, those of you who are listening in. Have a great weekend and great Monday. We'll see you back on Tuesday for the Wright Morning Show.